you so much, Hannah. I appreciate it. Really excited to announce some of the updates that we have for you this week. Do you mind flipping over to the next slide? Great. I think the team has spent some time digging back through the archives of commonly requested features. So, very excited to announce some of the workflow enhancements and feature enhancements that we've made to kind of address some of these, as well as we'll be sharing some updates on Corey, and we've invited our very own Emily and Jace from the team who's bringing you Corey, from the engineering team who's bringing that to you to talk about that as well too. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Tim to dive into Good Time Hire updates.
Thank you, Jasper. It's great to see everybody today. For those of you who have not met me before, my name is Tim Whelan. I am the product manager for GoodTime Hire and the core scheduling capabilities, interviewer training, interviewer insights, and all those surrounding core features. And today, like Jasper mentioned, I'm super excited to announce a really big feature with a huge area of improvement, and then some of those smaller customer requests that have been coming in for a long time. As you know, we have a product board where you can submit product and feature ideas, and we are constantly quantifying and checking this product request list. So please do continue to keep your ideas coming in there. They are being looked at and they are being worked on, and we're going to show you some of those today. So if Hannah will allow, I can share my screen and get started. All right. And all right, so here we are. So the first feature we're going to talk today about today is matching ATS job permissions. So this is a feature that you can start inquiring early access for through our email early@goodtime.io. It is going to be available for all customers, regardless of package. And for the time being, the ATS requirement is Workday or Greenhouse. Originally in the slide we talked about Greenhouse. We were able to move a little bit faster than expected, so I'm going to go through a solution for Workday as well today, which is really exciting. So, what does job permissions mean? Basically, on the left, you have a situation where there's an applicant tracking system like Greenhouse or Workday, and then you have GoodTime. And there are jobs you can see in the ATS, and those may or may not be limited. But then in GoodTime, you can see all sorts of jobs or interviews pertaining to all sorts of jobs. What we want to move towards is the green section where you have a matching visibility in GoodTime to that what you have in your applicant tracking system, so that your recruiters and coordinators can be more focused on what pertains to them, and the technology around sensitive data is improved as well. So I'm going to start with Greenhouse, and in this example, I am looking at a user named Baymax, and Baymax in Greenhouse has access to these three jobs. So the idea here is that if we have 5,000 other jobs in Greenhouse, Baymax is only allowed to see the information around these three jobs in the ATS. And as you can see now, if I go over to this demo environment in GoodTime, and I'm logged in as Baymax, I can see all sorts of interviews with all sorts of jobs, and it may or may not pertain to me, but that's what's happening right now. So I'm going to ask the Magic Genie to flip this feature and turn on the increased job permission security. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh here in a little bit a minute. I guess it's hard for me to guess how long I need to pause before refreshing, but I'm just going to go ahead and chance it at this point. So we're going to refresh, and this is a demo environment, so it's going to move a little bit slowly. Okay, so now you can see I've refreshed, and all I can see is this interview with LeBron James for full stack engineer, because that is what pertains to me, the full stack engineer here, Lisa. And then there's no other interviews for these two jobs, and all the other clutter has disappeared. So it's kind of a slim demo, but a very powerful enhancement in terms of enterprise security and control of what your recruiters and coordinators can see in good time. And the next thing I wanted to show is how this works in Workday. So for Workday, security and permissions is structured slightly differently. And what we've done so far is taken an early step approach as a step one to kind of do it in a very simple way. So here I have two job listings. And as you can see, this first one, my name is Kennedy. In this case, I'm logged in Workday, and this first one, this is theoretically, but this is the director of cloud delivery. And as you can see, Kennedy is not on the list of recruiters or hiring managers in this situation. So Kennedy, this job basically doesn't concern Kennedy. And then if I flip over to this other job, the engineering job, you can see that Kennedy is a recruiter. So it would make sense for Kennedy to see this in GoodTime. And so, as an example now, we'll go ahead and focus on this Director of Cloud Delivery role. So I'm just going to go ahead to GoodTime here, and you can see I have a scheduled interview for both Director of Cloud Delivery, which I'm not supposed to see, and then I also have the anonymous engineer. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the Magic Genie again to flip this feature for me, and we're going to go ahead and wait for that for a second. And then I'm going to refresh after I say some filler words. And here we go. Fingers crossed. So now you can see that immediately we went from two jobs or two interviews with two different jobs to just one interview for the cloud engineer, which is the one that I am assigned to in Workday and allowed to see. And you can also see that, for example, this anonymous engineer title will be refreshed as well in the candidate search and all the other pieces as well. So this is an early stage in this permissions project, and as I mentioned, the best way to get early access is to reach out to us at early@goodtime.io if you're on Workday or Greenhouse and interested in this. And we are working through the system from different perspectives of different features, right? So what I've showed you guys today is the dashboard. What we can do is we're going to move through and implement the security on the job pipeline level, on the insights level, and so on over time. But what we've also enabled is a way for you to, in the meanwhile, hide those pages from your admins so that they don't need to worry about it in the transition period. All right, let me see if I can navigate to Zoom here and see if we have any questions. I think I see two at least.
I think, yeah, there was another question that I answered also, but they both had the same effect, which is, how does it work when recruiters or recruiting coordinators are basically needing to support other teammates and
Yeah.
and the supporters are not able to, they don't have direct access to the jobs?
Yes, that's a great question. That's actually one of the Q&As I have written up as well for the future documentation of this. So the way this is going to work is we are building out both the concept of the ability for certain people to have all-seeing access and circumventing this, but also a delegation capability as well, so that you can, if somebody's out of office or you need to hand it over to somebody else or somebody's sick or whatever, you'll be able to do that without having to circumnavigate everything in the ACS. All right, Krishenda asked, how will this affect today's experience where recruiters have visibility to other teammates and interviews in good time so they can step support? Okay, so that's basically the question we just covered. And yeah, the TLDR answer on that, if I wasn't clear, is basically we're really excited to start onboarding this and do customer research with you all to make sure we find out the most optimal experience. An anonymous attendee also asked, is it only letting the primary recruiter see the candidates? So no, it's going to let all the recruiters who are in the list and the hiring managers as well. We use primary recruiters, but everyone has able to access. Okay. And then Marissa asks, does having super admin access as a recruiting coordinator solve the visibility to all? Currently, yes, it does. And this is something that it's something that's going to evolve over time. But yes, currently, right now, if you make your recruiting coordinator a super admin, they'll be able to circumvent this. So there's some flexibility in this early access program. All right. Atif said or asked, is this an optional update? Meaning we choose to leave the permissions as is? Very good question. I'm glad you asked. I forewent that conclusion, but yes, this is completely optional. You can use it if you apply this philosophy at your organization, and if you don't, you can leave it as is and nothing will change. You can also, in our early access program, turn it on only for certain users. So if you want to do a pilot with certain recruiters, you can also do that, and it doesn't have to affect everybody on your team or everybody in your org. And then Crescenda asks, does this mean then users will not have the filtering feature on the dashboard? Yes, exactly. So they will have the filtering feature, but the jobs that they're not able to see will disappear from that filter, if that makes sense. All right. I'll wait for a couple more seconds and see if we have any more questions. And I think we're good to move on then. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for awesome questions. I'm going to move on to one of our heavily requested features as of late. And this is available for you to turn on your own in our early access page. And it is also available regardless of package and regardless of applicant tracking system. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this today as well. I hope you'll do it with me. It's a really cool feature that will increase the availability that you get from your candidates. So as you already know, the GoodTime settings page is pretty big, and by big we mean powerful, and today it just got a little bit more powerful. So as you know, when you send out request availability links, you can choose to auto confirm those interviews as soon as the candidate provides the availability. But one common request that we've had is that the candidate should be forced to provide more than one option. And today you can now configure it to no minimum, which will be the default if you turn on this feature, which is how it operates today, right? But then you can change it to minimum 2 slots or 3 slots or 4 slots, etc. And obviously, it's the onus is on you all to find that balance where you're requesting enough slots so that you get ample availability, but not too many so that you're blocking candidates from scheduling, etc. And if you happen to force the candidate to pick more slots than there are available in the RA link, the lower number will prevail. So let's say you say, oh, well, the candidate has to give us 5 time slots that work, but there's only 4 in your request availability page because your interview pool is really busy, then 4 will obviously be enough. So the way this looks, I'll have a request availability link here. I'm a candidate now. I'm going to give my availability. I'm going to get started. And as soon as I click 1 time slot, it'll say, now you have to give 2 more. And you can also see that the submit availability button is disabled. And then when I select another one, it'll say, please provide 1 more time to proceed. And then I'll do that. And now the submit availability button lights up. So I'll just go through this one more time very quickly. The request availability link loads. I cannot proceed to the next step as a candidate. It tells me I need to give 3 more slots. I create 1. Now I have 2 more, 1 more, and 3. And now I can go ahead and submit. And somebody has now asked, if interviewer calendars are blocked, do suggested slots count against the minimum? Yes. So if you're mixing and matching suggested times with actual slots, the total, sorry, maybe I shouldn't have answered yes. The total of those two will be this whatever setting you have here. And as with everything in GoodTime, pretty much everything in GoodTime settings wise, we have the very cool cascading model. So you can set this on a company level. And then if you want to have exceptions for certain base templates, you can go ahead and change it on the base template level or listen to the company default. And from there, you can go down and control it on an interview template level. which can either listen to the company default or the base template default or its own value. And then ultimately, when you schedule your individual interviews with advanced settings, you can also go ahead and make certain exceptions just for that interview with that candidate even. So that is something we are really excited to give that kind of flexibility. All right, I'm going to read up some of the other questions. So can the minimum slot request be for certain roles, or is it all or nothing? So yeah, you can control it and just activate it for those templates that you were concerned about in those roles. So it's not on a job level per se, but you can control it on a template level or on an interview level and just match those templates to the jobs that are relevant. So yes. And Lindsay says, when will this be available? I'm not seeing it in my settings page. All right, so I promised and I didn't deliver. We're going to show how to turn this on. So everybody's going to go to settings, and then we're going to scroll down to early access. And when the early access page loads, you are going to see a uh, minimum number of slots and request availability. And you're just going to turn this on and refresh and go back to your interview settings, and then it should work. Let's see. Anonymous attendee says, is there a way to make the select minimum 3 time slots a bit brighter and bolder for candidates to be able to see clearly? I think that is excellent design feedback. I know it's possible, so we will take that with us and review it and make sure that it just adheres to the rest of our design system and product. Thank you for that feedback. Julie Cook says, when is this available? I really like it. Thank you very much. That's super nice to hear. Jennifer also asked something similar. And now I need to scroll down. So Jennifer, Julie, this is available right now. You're going to go to settings and you're going to scroll down here on the left to early access. And then you're going to find it here where it's called minimum number of slots and request availability and turn it on. And I think that answers those. Jemima asked, will this feature be available for full interview loops as well? Yes, exactly. So that's a great question. If you have a full interview loop that's like 4 times 1 hour, each of these little boxes are going to be 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., etc. And it'll still request 4 options or 3 options or whatever value you set. So even if you have a big loop, it'll still do that. Anonymous attendee says, what if the candidate genuinely has no other availability to provide? So that's a great question. That's where I kind of mentioned before as well that it's a good intention to find a balance. And obviously, we haven't made it possible to force the candidate to select 900 time slots or anything like that for that particular reason. So a lot of times we urge our customers to start with a conservative value and see how that goes, and then bump it up slowly but surely. But if the candidate doesn't have availability and they can't pick more than what you're forcing them to pick, there are great options with the candidate portal where they can reach out to the coordinator or speak to the candidate facing query agent that will tell you how to deal with it. So there are ways that that can be handled as well. And I think we're going to see more of that later today. All right, last question I think is from Sharma. So if minimum is set and the interviewer's calendar only shows a single slot, will the minimum block the candidate from sharing? Let me think about this. Yes, so if the minimum is higher than the number of slots that are presented on the screen, the candidate will only be forced to pick as many options that are available. So let's say right now we have a minimum of 3 options and there were only 2 on the screen. Obviously, we're not going to stop the candidate from interviewing. That would be terrible. So we're just going to ask the candidate to pick 2 of the time slots that are available and move forward. So I hope that answers your question. All right, loads of questions. We love to hear them. Please keep asking. It shows engagement, and you're also probably asking a lot of questions that a lot of other people are thinking about. So we love to answer them out loud. I'm going to move on to the final piece of my demo, and then I will hand it over to the next speaker. But the next one is also a popular request. And this is kind of a complicated scenario that often happens when you are a large scale multi-international organization. So as a big organization with interviewers in tons of different time zones, you may have interviewers that basically cover 9 to 5 in different time zones that make it so that slots are available all around the clock. And sometimes it's really great because you actually have candidates who want to interview late at night or really early in the morning. But when it's the first thing that loads, then it's maybe not the most visually pleasant or intuitive situation. So here's an example where the candidate has been asked to provide availability, and the interview team is all over the world, and 9 to 5 in from San Francisco to London to New Delhi and to Sydney, and it's just basically showing times all around the world. So as a candidate, the first thing I see here is, midnight or shortly after, and then I can scroll down and it takes a while to get down to morning and so on. And this is obviously shown in the candidate's time zone. So as you can see, this all loaded with the earliest start time available at the top, which normally is very intuitive, but in this case doesn't quite make sense. So what happens now with this enhancement, and this is the same feature request or early access as the minimum number of slots. So if you activate minimum number of slots, you'll have this automatically as well. And it's not a setting, it just works. So how it works now with this one is now that as a candidate, when I click get started for a similar interview, you'll see that everything starts in morning time. It's more conducive. Okay, I start at 7, maybe that's a little bit early, but 9 a.m. is right there, and I can go down and so on. However, what if I am a candidate who really wants to go earlier and the slots are there? Then actually you can still scroll up and they're all here. I can go up as early as 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. if I need to, but that's not where a default lands. And so it just makes the whole candidate experience a little bit more intuitive and a little bit more user-friendly, less scrolling and less confusion. And we've been discussing this with our customers for a really long time to make it work. And the nice thing as well, if one candidate opens this in Pacific time, it'll open at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and with the assumption, there's slots all around the clock. But if they were to open it in Eastern time, it would still load 7 a.m. Eastern time, not 10 a.m. Eastern time, and so on. So it'll be very intuitive mornings always for the candidate and so on. All right. Somebody else said, how do you recommend to move forward if the candidate can't make the timing options that are available, but they need to make the minimum slot required to move forward? That's a really good question. So for those of you who are working with interview pools that are really constricted, or maybe there aren't that many interviewers and so on, we do have a feature that's called suggest availability. And again, it's one of those cascading things. So you can set it on a company level and it can go down to templates and individual interviews as well. And it's a toggle here that says allow candidates to suggest times. In our case, in my demo environment, I have this turned off because we want the candidate to focus on only these verified time slots that are available with the interviewers. They haven't hit load limits. They're not blocked off. They're not at lunch or whatever, and so on. But if you do want to mix and match real times with suggested availability, you can just toggle this on and it'll load all these real time slots and then the suggested times in parallel as well. All right, I am running out of time here, so I'm going to try to move on a little bit. Let's see. Somebody last asked, love this update. Fantastic UI change to support teams to schedule across time zones. Thank you very much. We are happy if you guys are happy. And again, please don't stop submitting your great ideas to our product board. I'm going to share the link in the chat as well, so you guys can keep them coming. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to my wonderful colleague, Emily.
Hi, Tim. Thank you very much. A lot of excitement there. That's awesome. I am Emily. I'm a software engineer at GoodTime, and I'm here to share with you a few of the things that we've been working on lately regarding Corey, who is our AI agent and your digital teammate. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start with showing some things that Corey can do with regards to starting and kicking off the interview process to make it easier for you. I'm in my ATS, as you can see here. Greenhouse is just an example. We have our Chrome extension over here. If you gets in your way, you can move it around, which is one of my favorite things because I hate when things are in my way. And now we have Corey here as well. So if I click on Corey, I get a little voice activation thing here. So I can just describe via voice a few things that I need about my interview and kick off the process that way. So I'm going to fire one off. Let's see. Please schedule this for 20 minutes with Jace Archer and 30 minutes with Eric Valenzuela. Please do it on Thursday or Friday this week. Cool. That looks great. So I'm going to push this button. Corey's going to think about it, start parsing my natural language into structured data that can flow into our interview plan. So this is great. We see here that we don't have any availability from Alphabet. By the way, this is the Wicked Witch of the West's name from Wicked. So we don't have any availability from Alphabet, but Corey's going to help me out with that and request it. As soon as I'm done here, she'll take care of that for me. We've got the request window set up. So it's just, I really just want to schedule this on Thursday and Friday this week. And then my interview template is listed here. And then my 20 minutes with Jace, my 30 minutes with Eric, and I can confirm and queue this. So now depending on the settings that I have set up with Corey, that can take a few different paths. We want you to be able to work with Corey how you want to work with Corey. And if it's Corey's first day on the job, you might want to review a lot of the things that Corey's doing for you. But after you're confident in the patterns that Corey can move forward, it could be that just pushing that button and what I did there schedules the entire interview. First reaches out to Alphabet for her availability. Once that comes back, it goes into maybe auto hold and then auto confirms, and that's all that I had to do, and I don't have to push any more buttons anywhere. But if I do want to review it, which is better for the purposes of a demo, so I can show you how that maps onto an interview. Let me just refresh here so that my new interview comes to the top of the screen. Here she comes. Okay, so I see Alphabet. I see my interview is queued, and I can open it up, and I will get a little box here showing the stuff that I dictated in through voice with Jace and Eric. I am getting in my slots available coming in. I can just push request availability and move forward with that here, or I can come down here and see how this stuff all maps onto the interview template. So before I didn't have 20 minutes, I didn't have 30 minutes, I didn't have Jace, I didn't have Eric, but that's all on here. And then my 2-day availability window is mapped through here too, so I could continue with that. So that's one path I want to show you. Another thing that I could tell Corey, this one is going to be similar, but we're going to include candidate availability. Oops, and I'm going to switch candidates really quick. So this is a candidate, Leslie Nope, who is applying to be a front-end engineer. And this front-end engineer role, the coordinator is my colleague Jace, who's going to take over here in a second. So this is a little bit of like a role playing. I'm a recruiter. I'm handing this off to Jace to be a Q. So I'm going to describe or talk to Corey now. Hey, Corey, please schedule this with Emily Pancake for 45 minutes. The candidate is available on Thursday afternoon and Friday from 11 to 3. Cool, let's see what we get. Okay, great. So we have Leslie's availability all plugged in. We have my interview plan. We have 45 minutes with Emily Pancake. That is really my last name. And so I'm going to confirm in queue and hand it off to my colleague, Jace.
Hey everyone, my name is Jace Archer. I'm GoodTime's front-end architect. And so you got a little sneak preview there of what Emily's action looks like in real time. But I want to show kind of that first workflow that Corey, as you are working with her, treating her like an intern just on your new talent team, right? And so, what does that look like? This is my first account. So, I am a new coordinator. I'm coming in. I want to make sure and train Corey as we are trusting her. And so I have all of my settings here turned to review. I can also say when Corey should act in an urgent fashion or not. So I can say uh, if she needs to review before replacing an interviewer or doing a reschedule, as well as if I want to make sure that I verify what Corey is sending out to interviewers before it goes out, as well as I can set the channel that interviewers will receive that communication. And then lastly, if I want Corey to schedule for me, I can turn this to auto. Otherwise, I can review first. And that's this step that I'm going to show here. So, like, let's say you have the interview that Emily did first, and you have those review settings on. I'm going to show what that looks like in Corey's natural home, which is this lovely agent drawer. So the needs approval tab is just where you can act on things that Corey either needs help with or Corey is looking for your approval on because of the settings. And so Corey is going to be taking the same game plan no matter what. The only difference is that she'll be jumping in to ask you first if I have these review settings on. So Jace Archer queued an interview. This is the linked template that I use. I can jump into the drawer from here, like Emily showed, to verify how everything mapped over, make sure I trust everything and look there. But I'm also going to be getting a full log from Corey as she is doing this stuff. And so if I click request availability here, I can make sure everything looks like with my connected email template. I can even have Corey polish the email if I'm worried about some typos or want to make sure that the candidate knows I'm really sorry this took me an hour to do. Either way, I can preview, do all of that, and send it out. But I want to jump back to this other account where I will step in the role of a coordinator that Emily just sent me an interview for. So what does that look like? I have all of my settings turned to auto. And so that means that actions are going to start appearing in the in progress tab. And what that means is Corey is going to be working on these in the background. She is taking in your link templates, the business rules that you have set up for your interviews, as well as the history of your interview scheduling in order to maximize the success of what she picks, whether the link template was used on a certain job, making sure that the interviewers are correct based on the history of who has been scheduled with that job or with that candidate, as well as keeping in all of the things that GoodTime already keeps track of: candidate availability, load balance, calendars, all of that. Corey is acting with the GoodTime platform, and so everything that GoodTime has been doing for years, Corey is now just helping drive a little bit. And just like on that needs approval tab, Corey is telling you everything she's going to do. She, just like an employee who's trying to build up rapport with your team, she is doing status updates and making sure everything's super transparent. So if I want to look here, right, Emily declined an interview. Corey reached out to the candidate, and we're waiting for that response to come back through. Corey is then going to handle that interview from there. But this is in progress. All of this stuff should hopefully be happening pretty quickly. What happens if I miss one of these notifications? Well, like you just saw, something ticked over and happened in the background. The place where I can then go and reference that is this resolved actions card. So in here, I can see everything that Corey has done on these actions for my little assistant as coordinator. And so we have this top level thing that kind of gives the guidelines of everything that Corey did from a high level, right? So um, Corey scheduled an interview, sent out a confirmation, everything's looking good. Corey's giving that positive little bump of, hey, hands are off now. Everything's good with this interview. Good luck. But just like I'm a manager, and as I'm working with new devs, I want to really try and make sure and drill in to understand the logic of what they do. And we know that this is really important because a lot of you have very specific processes, and Corey's following those processes, and you can verify that with this new view for show details. So Corey is going to always be able to give you these three buckets of information. What happened? What was the triggering action that Corey is responding to? Well, in this case, she received a request from Emily, and that had notes as well as some candidate availability. Great. Now, what did Corey do? Well, she found several options that were available, just like any coordinator would, found the one that worked best for the candidate and the interviewers. Corey is trying to operate on Good Times core principles, which is we want to put the candidate first. We want to make sure that it is a frictionless positive experience for them, but also following your interviewers and your interview template. And so that's why she considered the load balance and selected interviewers. And then why did she do this? Well, she had the linked template. She was able to parse information from notes, as well as just using what was provided from the candidate that Emily passed to Corey, that Corey then used and put into the system to schedule everything. Now, this is scheduling cases. We unfortunately know that a lot of people are most concerned about the decline case. What happens if someone declines last second? And Corey's got your back. She's going to be helping you cover these cases. But if you want to know what that process looks like and what she did to resolve that issue, we're going to scroll up and we're going to find this one. So unfortunately, I'm not always available. And so I declined this interview. And Corey is letting whoever's reviewing this know, hey, Jace declined. We decided the best course of action was to message people over Slack because that's what my settings are. Luckily, I have a great colleague, Louise, who was able to pick up the interview and handle everything so that the candidate didn't have any change to their day. And why did Corey do this? Like I said, we're trying to maximize for frictionless experiences, and that's what Corey is trying to help you do. Corey is your agent, but is also your best ally in making sure that when you have these red alarms going off, when you have the fire alarms flashing, Corey is going to be able to cover it in a way that you would while also making sure that your workload isn't increasing. And so Corey is going to run through that justification and verify everything. As we continue to evolve with Corey and as Corey continues to work with you, the big thing that we want to highlight is Corey is going to be continuing to grow and learn. And as she is learning, all of those learnings and lessons are going to be uh, popping up in these cards. So if you're ever in doubt of what Corey is doing, why she's doing it, and what the process is that she's following, these resolved cards are your best friend. And as I said, at any moment, if you want to jump in and either change and adjust settings or view the interview in the normal drawer like you always do, you can always jump in, take over control, do whatever you need to do. But Corey is there to be the support line and hopefully be the thing that helps make all of this a much more smooth experience. Um, that is everything I have to show for Corey. Let me see if we have any questions.
Yeah, we have a question. When queuing with Corey, how is the coordinator or coordinator group selected from the demo? It looked like it was always auto-assigned to the reporter. So in this situation, my ATS and per job in my ATS, I was able to define a hiring team. And so that's how Good Time as always assigns a coordinator. It syncs that hiring team over. So in the first example I did, it was assigned to me because I listed myself as the coordinator on that hiring team. But in the second example, Jace was listed as the coordinator, so he was assigned to that one, and that's why he got that notification in his message on the Corey Digest drawer on the left because he was the coordinator. As far as coordinator groups goes, we are working through that logic and building that in soon, but that in soon for now. Corey won't step in when you are using coordinator groups, but that's like right next on the list for us to figure out the logic of how to do that. Uh,
Uh, Looks like
Go
we have a
ahead, Dave.
question from Jerica. For governance and audit purposes, will actions performed by Quarry be identifiable in backend logs or audit trails? For example, will admins be able to distinguish between actions taken by a human user versus actions initiated by the AI agent? Yes. So the kind of ever-changing guidance of AI as it's evolving, we're following all guidelines there, but we do have very detailed logs on our backend, as well as you can always view the history drawer in any interview. I can go here. This is test data, so our actions always look a little weird, but in this view, you can see when an interview was created and see actions that are done by a user. And if it's done by a user, we'll flag that user. And if it's performed by Corey, you will see the little icon that you see right down here. What if you don't use Q? Will Corey still work? So Corey can cover a variety of things. Queuing is the one that we showed here, but Corey can also jump in and do things like helping with last minute declines, even if an interview isn't queued and you have an interviewer that does decline, you can have Corey jump in and handle the replacement, as well as if that replacement requires a reschedule or a changing of availability, that can also be handled by Corey. And there's several kind of cases outside of the queuing workflow that Corey can handle. Can kind of scroll through these again of interviewer replacement, rescheduling, handling comms to interviewer, and then interview scheduling out in the queue workflow. And we're continuing to build things out for Corey. And so if there's actions that you're wanting to see Corey do in the future, please definitely reach out.
There's a question, would the candidate receive the email from Corey or from the coordinator's side? From the coordinator. So all of the from messaging for anyone is going to stay the same. The candidate should never know that Corey even exists. And you'll just know that Corey did stuff from this drawer that Jace has demoed in the history tab, in the interview drawer. If you look through there, you'll see that Corey did a bunch of things, but emails will all still come from the same place they've always come from the coordinator or however you have that set up.
Yeah, Corey is your version of Tim's magic genie, so can operate in the background and help out. But for your candidates, the same experience going forward. Hopefully, an even better one. Um,
We have a question for high touch candidates such as exec. Is there a way to turn off Corey for that specific candidate? We've actually been thinking about this a lot about how to make it so that these high touch items get more review. And Corey says, this isn't for me, you need manual intervention. So we don't have that right now. So we would do the review first, but that is definitely something that's coming up soon. Thank you for pointing it out. Helps us to prioritize it. Thanks. Okay. Jace, did you already answer if you don't use Q, will Corey still work? You did.
yes, yes.
Um,
And then
and
I think the one from Annabelle, uh, I think there was a follow-up question about does Corey just work with Slack or other communications? Right now, Corey is primarily messaging interviewers through Slack, but we are working through other communication options right now. We already integrate with Teams as well as we have internal messaging through email. And so those are the two primary channels we're looking to expand on pretty soon. Okay, it looks like Addie Can Corey send emails to people who aren't the interviewers or candidates, but might be stakeholders in the process? For example, we have security registration of building. Could Corey email the stakeholder who manages that registration so they could register them? So I can give two answers. One is, so Corey's going to be using your interview templates, which have your email templates linked. If you have CC and BCCs already linked there, then Corey will send that out just like you would now. Uh, for more direct like inclusion, this would be something that would be great to reach out to early at Good Time, and we would love to hear more about how you want to have Corey reach out to different people. We're continuing to grow what Corey can do, and ultimately we're looking for people to help guide us as Corey continues to evolve because we want it to be the best tool possible. So Corey, just like us, is eager to learn. I think we have managed to cover everything. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Oh,
Thanks.
one
Thanks,
more.
Chase. Thanks, Emily. Oh, yeah, one more. Go ahead.
Uh, at what intervals does Corey ping the interviewers via Slack? Can we make those changes manually? Right now, it will follow your current settings. And so the same like reminders that go out via Slack or for those messages that'll go out. I
For
believe
the
yeah, yeah.
I believe for the interview or replacement, it will, if it finds 5 replacements, it'll send those, and then 30 minutes later, if nobody's gotten back, it'll do 5 more, and 30 minutes later, it'll do 5 more until you reach a certain window ahead of the interview. But
Yes.
we'd love some feedback if those intervals seem like they wouldn't work for you.
And if that's something you're really concerned about, that is something you can turn on review first. So if you either want to review what Corey's going to send out or maybe have the manual process of sending before, that's something you can totally turn on. And hopefully that'll help out. All right, now
Amazing.
I think we're done. Thank you.
Probably the most engaged webinar we've had in a long time. So thanks everyone for submitting your questions. Thanks Emily and Jace for sitting in for Patrick's today. I want to tie a little bow on this Corey conversation. I know we've teased Corey a little bit in the last few product webinars, and now she is out in the ether. So we do have a quick little video to put a bow on that.
An AI agent shouldn't be another tool for hiring teams to manage. It should feel like a teammate getting the work done alongside you. Meet Corey, GoodTime's AI agent that handles hiring coordination end to end. Corey doesn't have to wait for a prompt. She identifies what needs to happen and simply makes it happen, handling what's planned, adapting to what isn't, keeping everything and everyone on track. Whatever it takes to keep hiring moving, no matter what gets thrown at her, she handles it. She's always on, running coordination behind the scenes, and available to help everyone involved in the hiring journey, connecting candidates, interviewers, and your talent team. And through it all, you're never out of the loop. Every action is visible, every decision is clear, you stay in control while Corey handles the busy work. And teams are already seeing the difference. Less coordination, more momentum. And most importantly, more time for what actually matters, your people. This is what an AI agent should be. Not a tool you use, but someone who works with you. That's Corey. This is how hiring gets done. Meet Corey at goodtime.io/Corey.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Hold your applause. I know you all are in the background. We are having a dedicated Corey webinar tomorrow. So Jasper on the call today and our sales engineer, John Bruno, will be hosting a 1-hour session on all things Corey. It is open for prospects and for customers. You all feel free to join us tomorrow. I dropped the link in this chat. We'd love to have you there. That's a great time to ask any additional questions you have of Corey. All right, in closing, I'm going to launch 2 quick polls. First, a lot of great discussion. Would just love to hear of the features you saw today. What's most exciting to you? What would you like us to continue to develop? Give this a couple more seconds. Amazing. Tim, it looks like request availability is winning out. No surprise. It's great.
Not
Okay.
that it's a competition, but
No,
it,
of
it
course.
definitely is.
Awesome. And then just before leaving, how did we do today? Would you recommend this product webinar to any of your friends or colleagues? Thanks for joining in. We will see you June 17th for our next product updates webinar. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out with any additional questions you have for any of us. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you on the 17th.
Bye, everybody.